Hi everyone, and welcome today. Thanks for taking time out of your rainy schedule if you're in the UK. Yeah, thanks for joining us for our webinar today on the effect that remote working is going to have on HR and then also on the businesses that we support. Expecting the webinar to last about 45 minutes to an hour, and we're going to send through a recording afterwards. If you do have any questions, please add them in the Q&A box, which I believe is at the bottom of most people's screen. What we're going to try and do is answer them as we go. If we can't answer them as we go, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, and we'll pull out those questions as we go. But there's also a chat, so feel free to test it out by letting us know where you're joining us from and saying hi. We're going to finish off the webinar by sending around a feedback form. It will come from my colleague Frankie, who you may already have heard from in setting all of this up. Please do take the time to fill it in. It's really helpful just for letting us know what you got out of today, what you'd like to see coming in the content coming forwards, and obviously helping us to improve as we go. So we've got two fantastic speakers joining us today. We've got Alyssa Tantillo from Achievers. They are an employee recognition, rewards and alignment platform that focuses on employee engagement and provide businesses with a solution to better understand their teams, to build culture and ultimately retain their employees. Darren Mitchell, no relation, I promise. He wanted me to convince you all that he was my son, but I don't think anyone's biting. I don't think anyone's biting today. Employment Hero are a full service HR software that have the aim of making employment easier and more rewarding for everyone. So they just got added to Deloitte's Fast Tech 50 list, and they're one of Australia's fastest growth companies, and they opened in the UK earlier this year, making the very sensible choice of using Instant Impact to support their growth as they did so. So thanks so much for speaking this morning. But before I hand the reins over to you, I'm going to introduce Instant Impact and explore a couple of the global trends that have been the impetus behind this session. So you may, well, of course, you will all be aware of the terrible impact that COVID has had across the world and all the negatives. But I think today we're going to be focusing on the silver lining. So some of those exciting trends and what they mean for our businesses. So just to introduce me to start with, I'm the founder and co-CEO of Instant Impact, and we are in-house recruitment experts. We work as an extension of our clients' HR functions and provide the team expertise, marketing and technology that they need to make high quality, diverse hires directly, and also to cope with global trends. Most recently, we've been doing a lot of work on remote working and also on diversity as well. So there are two of those big trends that really make the topics that we're covering today particularly pertinent. So firstly, we're undergoing a time of change that's unprecedented in most of our lifetimes, and it's been HR, people, talent, and personnel leaders that have been in the driving seat of that change. We've had to marshal our companies through so much this year, including tearing up and rewriting the rule book for COVID and lockdown, responding to global momentum behind diversity initiatives that followed the Black Lives Matter protests earlier this year as well. And an ongoing process of re-examining everything. We're really expecting that re-examination to continue well into 2021. And that really includes the way that we're looking at talent across the board. So do employees need to work from the office? What skills do we need in this new world? How do we maintain and retain our culture and values without being face to face? And as companies ask and answer those tough questions in the years to come, there's a really amazing opportunity for us to show how innovative HR and talent leaders can be. So secondly, the other trend is that there's been a monumental shift towards remote working. Many companies are planning on becoming remote first. Others are adopting more of a mixed policy where people can flexibly work in the office or at home. But even companies that aren't changing their remote working policy, that aren't going remote first, they're asking their employees to come back to the office. Most of those can't deny how effective a remote team can be. So if you think about the scale of this, according to a study by the Office of National Statistics, only 5% of people worked from home on a regular basis in 2019. Now it's a regular part of most of our lives. And businesses and individuals are only now just starting to think about what the longer term implications of those shifts may be. And I see an Instant Impact sees a lot of opportunity. For companies that master how to recruit, train, and manage their workforce remotely, there's an opportunity for them to be able to tap into a broader and more diverse talent pool. Those businesses will be able to hire regardless of geographical catchment area, and that will give them an amazing secret weapon. So if it's as easy to hire someone in Cardiff as it is in Calcutta, then they're really recruiting from a global talent pool. And large companies have been offshoring their back office and call centers for decades. So Deloitte, JP Morgan, all these sort of businesses often have large technology centers or customer service centers in India or similar countries. But what's different about this crisis is that it's demonstrated that we can run more complex business functions and actually to have fully functioning remote businesses. So it doesn't matter how specialist the area is, how senior they are, we've all been remote and we've all been working without a physical office. So now that businesses have proven that they can operate remotely, there's no reason why they can't explore these global talent pools. And to put that into perspective, there are over 11,000 finance directors registered in the UK on LinkedIn. There are 52,000 in the US, and there are over 100,000 in the world. And if it makes no difference to management or productivity, whether your new sales hire, for example, is based in Cape Town or London, why limit hires to your local office? If you think about some of the benefits from it, just you think about the salary. Average salary of a sales exec in Cape Town is £7,500 per annum. It's 21,700 in Coventry and 50,000 in Colorado. So at Instant Impact, we're looking at this as a huge opportunity for us and for our clients, and we're really building in global and remote workforce planning into many of our strategies. I just thought I'd run you through how we're going about that. So first thing to do is to ask the big questions. If you were building your business from scratch, how would you approach your workforce? Where would you want your talent? Do all of your teams need to be in the office? Do any of your teams need to be in the office? And what would your remote working policy be if you didn't have any big legacy systems or big personalities to deal with in your organization? And how do those change department to department? Once you've got your ideals set up in your mind, you can start to map out a path to get there. So companies that take the leap into remote first working and are able to shift their mindset to become global employers will have a few really clear advantages. So first off, they'll be able to tap into far more talent. So developing nations like India, Brazil, Indonesia, they're leading the world in the growth of tertiary educated talent. And that's led to an oversupply of many of the same skills that we struggle to attract and retain in the UK, Europe, and the United States and Australia. And that includes developers, data scientists, but also increasingly some of those softer skills as well. Attracting, recruiting, and retaining candidates from different backgrounds will become much easier. So it's clear how a global workforce will allow companies to tap into a more ethnically and internationally diverse workforce. But actually, remote workforces can be more accessible for disabled and neurodiverse candidates as well, who might not have to deal with a busy workplace or a stressful commute, for example. And actually, that commute can really help companies to tap into a more socioeconomically diverse workforce as well, because often some of the most deprived areas in developed countries are those that are the least accessible from capital cities or big cities. So this global and remote infrastructure that companies build for employee set won't just affect the makeup of the employees, but also of the client base, and that could really add to a business's scalability. So an ability to staff anywhere in the world means that companies will be able to target a much larger audience in terms of potential clients. There are also hidden benefits to working across multiple time zones. So for example, it makes it much easier to add 24/7 cover to your service without having to deal with difficult staff shift patterns as well. That sounds great, all of this, I'm sure, but there are a few considerations to take into a few things to take into consideration, I should say. Before you launch your global and remote workforce. So let's start with a really exciting topic, tax. Depending on the country that your employees are working from, there may well be personal tax implications for them, and there could be corporation tax implications for your business. So at this scale, at scale, if you're working all over the world, this kind of global workforce is certainly going to give your CFO and finance department a headache. We're actually working with an accounting firm, Smith & Williamson, and we're putting together a detailed webinar that we're going to be running early in the new year, exactly on that subject. So the tax implications of a global workforce. So if anyone's interested, please do keep your eyes on your email over the coming weeks and sign up. Then there's employment law. So every new territory has its own quirks and challenges, and some countries really don't make it easy. In America, every state has its own variation on employment law. And but that said, with an experienced HR and recruitment director, good employment law advice and good financial advice, these obstacles are certainly negotiable. Finally, there are challenges that we've all been addressing since lockdown. So how can companies replicate some of the best elements of working in an office without that physical proximity? And luckily, Alyssa and Darren are here to cover that today. So challenges are mounting up, the list's getting longer and longer. So it might sound like moving to a remote workforce just isn't worth the effort. But what I would say is that the great thing is it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and the move doesn't need to be a radical one. So like many companies, if you've got more than enough change on your plate at the moment, you can start small and just identify a few roles within teams that work well in a remote first environment and open those up to a global talent pool. Just hire the best applicant wherever they're from in the world, pay a competitive local salary, and in each location you should be able to find an umbrella company to deal with payroll and employment law considerations. Once you've proven this model, you can scale it to the rest of the business. So that is it from me and my scene set. And I'm very happy to be able to hand over to Alyssa from Achievers. Thanks for joining us today, Alyssa. And just as a heads up, while you seamlessly transition your slides over, you were still on mute.
Yep, figured that out. Hi, everyone. My name's Alyssa, and I'm from Achievers, and I swear I know how to use Zoom. So I will get started this time by sharing my screen, so please hold. And really what I'm going to be talking about is just mirroring what Felix said, but now that Felix has staffed you with this amazing global community, let's talk about how we can help retain them and make sure that they're engaged. So with that, let's give this another shot, and we should be sharing. No?
Not yet. You guys, it's Achievers, a tech company. Oh, here we go. There we are. We're good.
Oh, wow. Felix always keeping me on my toes. So basically what we do here at Achievers is we are a solution to help with recognition and reward, but there are so many other things that are encompassed within that title. And I think the one thing that we all want to talk about today is how companies are pivoting their strategies to make them more relevant to 2021 as we're, kind of pioneering this new world of a complete remote workforce across the globe. But the one thing that we think is the most important, and hopefully you agree, and that every business really doesn't lose sight of it, is we need to make sure that our most valuable and key asset to success is supported, and that's our people. So what you're looking at here is a blissful hive of productivity, but for many of us, it really hasn't looked like this. And that could be depending on anywhere from the day to the hour to the minute. And we probably look something more like this. So as we fight as companies to get that time in front of the screen, as people are starting to extend their screen time past 9 to 5 to have digital happy hours on Zoom or trivia, or even FaceTiming with family members, because we're all trying to work through this social distancing concept, companies are having to fight for that engagement time. And whether they're winning or not is really in the bottom line metrics, which hopefully we can help you out with today. So in this new world of working remote, there are absolutely things you can do to support your newly working workforce, or if you decide to go with Felix and get some global people even after this, it's still going to be relevant. But we want to make sure that your business becomes more resilient to any future disruptions. And that's really why I'm excited to talk today, because I'll be sharing tried and tested solutions that you can apply to optimize your organizational culture and employee performance as we brace ourselves for what's next. So first of all, what is culture? Let me just say it now. Culture is not defined by whether you have free food on Thursdays or a foosball table in the employee lounge or even unlimited vacation policies. These are all perks and they're really important, but they're not the same as culture. And the right perks can support a well-aligned culture, but they do not define it. So at Achievers, we believe that culture is something that you're able to manage, and we want to make it simple. So in our book, culture is simply how you do things in your organization. And this is really defined by a small set of values. So it's these values that describe and differentiate your culture and really is the guiding force to everything that your organization does and how. So culture is that social glue that holds us all together and gives us that sense of identity about who we are as an organization and where we want to go. And it's important to note that regardless of whether you choose to manage, guide, or develop your culture, it's there anyways. So let's make it a positive one. So even before the pandemic shook up the world, it was well established that from a psychological perspective, people crave connection to their organization's strategic vision. So this is why we have town halls and all hands meetings. We want to know about what's going on in the business. And we're programmed as humans to really crave a purpose and to be a part of something bigger. But in times of heightened stress, where employees are more likely to be unsure of what to prioritize or whether their jobs even matter, it's even more crucial to guide them to see how their individual contributions impact the bigger picture. And it's even more important to ensure that visibility and that line of sight into the organizational vision when so many people are working remote. And then also maintaining that connection and belonging is going to be crucial. So that's how we create that loyalty to the business and make sure that they are staying with us for years and years and climbing the ladder and becoming absolutely amazing employees. But according to Gallup, when organizations get it right and they're able to effectively assemble employees around their values and align all decisions in accordance to guiding principles, that they experienced 12% higher customer advocacy, 18% higher productivity, and 31% lower employee turnover. Sorry, Felix. And what do all of these have in common? It's the simple concept that their workforce is engaged. Engaged is the #1 key. So although there are many ways organizations can impact engagement, at Achievers, we've proven that frequent recognition has a huge impact and can actually drive engagement. And lucky for us, Harvard Business Review agrees. So you don't have to just trust me, you can trust them. But another crucial role regular recognition plays is uniting and connecting remote employees. So during this time, it has become even more crucial to ensure that our people feel valued. And that has not been lost on our customers here at Achievers. So since the pandemic, we've seen a 48% increase in recognition across our customer base, which represents over 300 organizations that collectively employ over 3 million people around the globe. So it's big, we got a big data set to work with here. And with so many people newly working remote who traditionally did not, the value of having an online platform was that they could still foster that sense of belonging within the organization. And let me just say, you don't need to go out and buy Achievers tomorrow. You don't need any high-level, really expensive online platform in order to utilize your current tools to create the same effect. So with that said, I did want to share our secret sauce, which is the 3 golden rules of employee engagement to help get your workforce more engaged and living those set of values, aka that culture, on a daily basis, no matter where they are in the world. So the first one I want to talk about is inclusive. So I'll just dive right in. So starting with the fact that recognition must be inclusive. What this really means is that companies should find a way to democratize recognition, allowing it to be free flowing from bottom to top, side to side, all directions, whatever song you want to insert there, whatever feels right, do a little dance. But the idea here is that exclusively top-down people initiatives really didn't work pre-COVID. They're a bit dated, and they're not going to work now. So employees should be able and encouraged to recognize anyone, regardless of their physical location, function, or job level. So an enabling inclusive and transparent peer-to-peer recognition gives managers and employees direct line of sight into what's working so they can double down on those behaviors. So what we say here at Achievers is what gets recognized gets repeated. And this is particularly true if there's increased visibility. So I'll take a second. I know I'm talking quite quickly, but let's think about a recognition or someone coming up to you and saying, what an amazing job you did for a webinar per se. Let's think about what words they used. Was it impactful? Was it specific? We'll get into that next. But furthermore, leaders need to acknowledge that when employees might be feeling isolated or stressed due to heavier workloads, this could be to furloughed staff, etc., centralizing and amplifying those moments allows everyone to virtually celebrate in those wins, which boosters morale and instills confidence in employees that the business is moving in the right direction, which is, I think, something that every employee in the world is craving right at this moment. And the next one we're going to talk about is specific. So as I mentioned, I wanted you to think about a recognition, maybe it'd be a verbal recognition that you've received over the past couple of months. And I want you to think about exactly what it said. So the more specific a recognition is about why an exhibited behavior deserves to be recognized, the stronger the emotional impact will be on the receiver and their performance. So was your recognition, you're awesome? Because that isn't meaningful or convincing, and it doesn't lead to improved employee performance. So it's important to be really explicit about how that behavior ties into the organizational values and strategic goals. So you want to demonstrate to the business what great behavior looks like. Speaking out of my own personal experience, I can say that recognition has played an instrumental role in my assimilation into Achievers. So I am in a remote office here in London. Our headquarters is actually in Toronto, Canada. So being recognized, which is completely visible on our newsfeed, and knowing that what I was doing was being noticed, and my actions were clearly aligned to the values as they laid out in the recognition text. But the recognition also reconfirmed that my approach to the Achievers' values was aligned. They're mirrored. And receiving these meaningful recognitions gave me a feeling of belonging and being valued early on as a contributor to Achievers' success. And then on top of that, that recognition was actually boosted by our CEO. So a boost is basically a small monetary value associated with the recognition that was given by another individual. And this is a tool that we use mostly for C-suite or higher level managers. So it lowers that barrier to entry. They didn't have to see me do said behavior. They didn't have to be there on that webinar, but they can support that nomination and agree that that behavior is something that they would like repeated from the C-suite perspective. So it was definitely amplified and heightened. But once again, in times of stress, when employees are feeling left behind, we got to make sure that that specific behavior is being noticed and valued. And the next one, if you didn't listen to me talk for the last 8 minutes, just tune in now. Frequent. So diving directly into frequent, what that means. Recognition is a short-term need that needs to be satisfied on an ongoing basis. So yes, two things clearly take place in the brain when someone receives recognition. I know you guys all know this, of course. The first one is you get a little dopamine hit, which results in an emotional high and contributes to creative problem solving and a sense of belonging. Check, check. Innovation, we all want that. And the second thing that happens is that dopamine hit is completely gone. So the one I just described is gone just as quickly as it came. So after analyzing 19 years worth of data, we're actually able to see this happening. And we've used data sets across 100 of companies, and we actually have an Achievers Workforce Institute, which is their whole job, making sure that every piece of best practices is supported by science. And what we found is that one unique recognition received per employee per month, they experience the strongest measurable impacts on business outcomes. So these outcomes could take form in an NPS score from a customer, as well as retention, as we talked about before. But the biggest thing that we need to focus on is that recognitions need to be happening more often, not just annually awards, not quarterly awards. They need to be happening monthly. And I know that one recognition per month for each of your employees may sound a bit daunting, but these people are already living your culture. So why not celebrate them for it? Also, taking a minute out of your day to recognize someone for great work not only makes the nominee feel good and aligned to the culture, as I explained that I had felt previously, but it also helps the nominator start looking out for those behaviors more often, which instills the culture in the nominator. Now, can you see this big, beautiful snowball effect of culture change happening? I do. And you don't have to just listen to me. We do have science, like I said. So in this particular study, we mapped non-monetary recognition, so completely social, verbal, no value associated with it at all, so decoupling reward and recognition. And what we saw is that individuals that received just one social recognition or non-monetary recognition found that people averaged receiving, told you that, was 43% more engaged than those who didn't. So taking 10 minutes out of your day on a Friday to recognize everyone on your team, that can result in 43% more engagement, aka resulting to more actual time spent doing work, which could result in better experiences from the customer side, as well as more innovative ideas being flowing and through the business. There's just so many things that we can think about. And for 10 minutes of your time, I can't see a reason why that wouldn't be worth it. So in summary, when thinking about how to create an engaged workforce connecting to your culture in a remote world, remember that not all recognitions are created equal. And to achieve a culture of recognition and truly embed your values into the flow of work of employees, recognition must be inclusive, specific, and frequent. So thanks, guys, and Instant Impact team for letting me join. But I did, before I go, just want to mention a few things that we have available on our Achievers website, and they're completely free. You don't need to give us your email address or anything. But the two things that I want to talk about is the Ultimate Guide to Recognition, which has years of best practice piled into one free ebook. And then also the one that I think is really, really great is our free recognition e-cards, which you can start sending to your teammates. All you need is an email address, or if you want to send them to your clients, great idea. And you can start finding out firsthand the impact that positive and specific recognition can have on your partnerships. And it takes 2 minutes and it could make someone's day. So you'll be amazed by the impact. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. I tell you what, why don't we send that around in our email follow-up as well, so that everyone has that on hand.
Absolutely.
Fab. Well, yeah, thanks so much. That was really, really interesting. I've got to say, you make a pretty good case for the return on investment on recognition. I mean, unless you do those sort of small monetary incentives, it's free, and you get that incredible increase in engagement. So it seems like a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, just start. You can start today by creating a channel on Teams or Slack, just recognition channel, and just get it flowing. Have it be visual, and I hope you'll be surprised by the impact, especially as we're getting so close to Christmas.
Thank you very much. Right. Well, now we've got Darren Mitchell, who is country manager of the UK at Employment Hero. So before we get into the tricky questions, we're doing a Q&A here, so I get to ask Darren all the challenging questions. But an easy one first. Darren, tell us a little bit about Employment Hero.
So yeah, thanks, Felix. So yeah, Employment Hero is an all-in-one HR and payroll solution. We specialise in helping SMEs, so from the 5 employees up to the 500, We offer, we say it's the all-in-one solution, really aimed at helping companies, making employment easier and better for the employees, but also the company as well. So that's our solution. We've been on as you mentioned, a really high growth. Mentioned in the Deloitte, 162% growth, doing very well. But it's a great company with a great culture. We talk about recognition, as mentioned early on. So big believer in that. But yeah, it's a great company with a great culture. But yeah, we're focused on SMEs. And yeah, through the questions today, hopefully I can maybe give some tips of how we're using our system and what we can do to assist the companies at the moment.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I'd like to start with just understanding, I think you mentioned your particular specialisms around SMEs. I know a lot of people joining us on the call are from that sort of size of companies. What have you guys found the effects of remote working? What are the main effects been over the last 9 months for people who haven't done it out of choice? It's been through lockdown.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, people coming SMEs, they don't have big teams. They don't have, the heads of people of culture or, directors. It can be one person, two person, really max at that level. It could even be the CEO doing it, the office manager. So I think there's, it's a massive turbulent time. There's increased pressures and increased challenges, but there are opportunities as well. So I think the challenges that were there for HR and for SMEs are basically just magnified by about 10, 20, 30 times. It's just increased massively. So if you look at those challenges, everyone wants to have the happy staff, they want to do the recognition, which is great, and finding those solutions as well. But a lot of them have just been bogged down with administration, administration in terms of, new employment laws, the new remote working policies, furlough, could even be ordering laptops and, chairs and desks to make sure people are, have a good office working environment as well, and purchasing them as well. So I think the main one is one of the biggest effects has just been the increased pressure on HR. As I said, it's sort of gone through the roof. But in line with that as well, employee expectations, the employee experience. That's a key focus for companies is in improving the employee experience. But there's a recent survey again. I think it's now saying 85% of people now do not want to go back to the the 9 to 5 days a week. It's not going to go. So that there is a massive change around that as well. And I suppose it's for SMEs. How are they going to cope with that new work, and where can they find the support to make that change as well? And the third one is around mental health. People are being massively affected by it, and I've been really thankful over the last, I'd say, year. The mental health has been really at the forefront for companies. Male suicide and female suicide, and just the mental health around employees, because companies know, they need to support their company. Yes, reward and recognition, but also around people's mental health as well. We did a survey recently, which is 1,000. We did 1,500 people, and the sort of shocking stat was 55% of employees said they weren't getting the support they needed. So there is a big gap, and I don't think it's down to the company. Well, we know it's not down to the companies not wanting to supply it. It's just they haven't had the time. They've just been too busy, too much admin, too much other stuff as well. So our solution really is based on taking all that administration to allow the companies to have more information to support them further. So that's pretty much the same. Our solution in a nutshell is helping companies achieve that.
Interesting. That's really interesting, Darren. Thanks a lot. I'm going to pick out a couple of points and just ask for a little more information. You mentioned that obviously companies want to support their employees as much as possible, but there are all of these new challenges on the employees themselves. You mentioned mental health. You mentioned how busy HR are. And you mentioned quite a lot of things. We all know this from a personal level of how stressful it's been. If you could, from speaking to your clients, who I believe are mostly HR and people leaders, what should they be focusing on more than anything else to support the employees that they're responsible for?
So I actually think they've got to help themselves, first of all. They've got to help themselves. They've got to find support. They've got to find, you don't want to be spending hours finding out a remote working policy where you could actually just, use a solution like ours where it's already written, or new contracts. Just take all that administration for yourself and allow yourself the time to be able to help. That would actually be my first, second, and third one, is allow yourself to help your employees as well. So we mentioned earlier about regular one-to-ones, catch up, recognition, that type of stuff as well. So that is absolutely key. But also there's other places you can look at. You know, there's employee assistance programs you can promote, whereby, you know, it's confidential support and counselling. So you can just send out links to that. You know, there's Samaritans. Just showing you care is massive, and it can be, you know, it can be the reward of recognition, but it can be just showing there support, and we do care about you.
That's interesting. So often it comes down to communication, because I think most of our companies, you know, Instant Impact, we're 20 people, but we've got some really good things that we can offer for support. That one of the things that we make sure that we do, but never can do enough, is to make sure we're making employees aware of it. We're making sure that we're communicating what we do, but then also getting feedback back from our team and making sure that there's support. I mean, do you have any advice to companies around that?
Yeah.
Darren?
So again, I would surveys. So again, with our solution, or you can use other solutions as well. You know, there's surveys. Just asking your staff as well. You know, making it, you know, asking the survey, asking, you know, how are we doing? Happiness surveys, remote working surveys. So just that feedback loop of asking them as well is huge. You can then use the data and do analysis around it as well. If there's certain departments, you know, that you need to work on, etc. But yeah, just that communication, surveys, one-to-ones, feedbacks, that regularity of communication and connection, as Alyssa was saying earlier on, connection is massive, and engagement is absolutely key. So the more you can do around that, the absolute better. And it can be the simple things as well. So I joined Employment Hero now a couple of months ago, and when they sent me a welcome pack, they sent me, you know, it had masks in it, and it had it also had toilet paper, which was also, I found, quite amusing as well. But it was just those type of touches that it showed me that the business cared about me. It was thinking about me, and it was simple as that. So yes, recognition, yes, communication, regular communication, but all the small things as well, the thank yous, the public recognitions, all go towards happy staff. And we know happy staff are more productive.
That's fantastic. I also love that. It's got to be an Australian sense of humour thing, going in there, selling some loo roll. So I guess last question that we've got time for, and I think this is maybe a bit of an overarching one, but how do you think this crisis, the last 9 months, last question I should say before we get them from the crowd, but how do you think this crisis has changed the relationship that employees have to their employers?
So I think, again, it's really shone a light. It's shone a light on the good companies who care about the business. You know, within that, I think the relationship, it's all about loyalty, I think, at the end of the day, and loyalty is a two-way street. So it is about, you know, employees talk about, you know, they want to see, and in our report that we can share later on, we did a really good research about how loyalty and what you can do, etc. But I think loyalty is absolutely key, and again, it is a two-way street. Again, if we've shown them, you're showing them, supporting them, you're showing them with the structure, you're showing about one-to-ones, you're showing about the recognition, that you want to retain them, you want to make them happier, and you're doing everything around that as well, you will get loyalty, and the company will get it back in return as well. So it is a two-way street, but again, communication and connection is absolutely key.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darren. And we have a question in from, so if anyone has any questions for any of the speakers today, just pop them in the Q&A box. I've got one here from Claire, who says, when talking about recognition, so this sounds, let's start with Alyssa on this one. When talking about recognition, what tips do you have for sustaining it within a workforce and keeping it high up there within the employee's workflow? She added, I'm asking, as often when rolling out new initiatives, there's a period of high compliance and high engagement, which sometimes drop off. That's a great question. Alyssa, what do you say to that?
Yeah, so the number one thing is that a recognition program is not a set it and forget it kind of concept. It needs constant love and investment. Ideally, here at Achievers, we work with our clients to do at least one quarterly campaign to incentivize people to come back into the platform and to recognize individuals, whether that be through a monetary value or completely social. But there's always going to be a touch point, at least quarterly, to ensure that people remember, to come in. And then also our programs that do have a monetary value associated with them, each member is given a certain budget. And we do have reminder emails that automatically go out if said member hasn't used all of their budget. So it's just small touch points that we utilize to ensure that this isn't going to be forgotten after the hype of the first 3 months. And we do give a lot of options around custom campaigns, and we have a whole catalog of campaigns. It's really plug and play. So it shouldn't be too much work for the admin, but we'll always be supporting you throughout that. But for somebody that is kind of doing this on their own, quarterly awards are great. And if you already have those as part of your culture, maybe just add on top recognizer as an award to those quarterly awards. So it's not an additional work, but it still is an incentive to be like, oh, I didn't know that that was an award. Maybe I want to go get that. And then it just also reminds them, oh, I should probably be recognizing more.
That's really interesting. And just to add, I completely agree. Just to add to that, I think one of the things that we see with our clients, and this manifests in a number of different ways, is one of the things that we see when we're trying to encourage employee referrals of potential employees. One of the most effective things you can do is not to put a monetary incentive on it, but to encourage the CEO or someone C-level to add it to their town hall and say, well, thanks so much to X, Y, and Z for introducing us to a new developer. So if you do that with recognition and say, make it something that's top of the priority list for your business leadership, that will then set it in the, and I know you said it's a democratized
still there's always going to be, if one of the biggest things that we always tell our clients is you need leadership buy-in. You need them coming into the platform at least once a month, minimum once a quarter, liking, commenting, using that boost tool. So we're making it easy for their point of entry, but we still need their support and for this to work.
Absolutely.
Actually, if I could just maybe add
yes, yes, please.
So yeah, again, 100% agree with you guys there. So we're a big believer in, we use OKRs within our business, objective and key results, and obviously values is absolutely key for us as well. But you need to draw the line as well. Is how am I impacting those OKRs? How am I aligning to the values as well? So it's a very clear alignment, and that's how we reward and recognize as well. So it's a very clear alignment to our, the company big goals, but also what you're doing on a day-to-day basis as well. And it just gives people a sense of worth. Sense of worth. I am contributing towards that goal, and you feel part of the team. So I think OKRs are a great starting point just to start building that alignment through the whole organization. Brilliant.
That's really, really helpful, Darren. Thank you. And we've got a question from Sophie in here. So this one's for you, Darren, to start with. So any tips for bringing the whole company together and maintaining relationships whilst we're all working virtually, as it can be quite easy to get stuck in individual teams?
Yeah, and you see that sometimes with like the reward and recognition. It's salespeople congratulating salespeople, and marketing do congratulations and marketing. So actually, Alyssa talked about it as well, but it needs to be public and it needs to be open and it needs to be seen. So whichever platform you choose, it needs to be seen by everyone. And then if you do, again, align it to the values, align it to the OKRs, you'll then get the CEOs talking about it as well. There's nothing better than the CEO or your manager or your manager's manager telling you a great job. It just makes you feel great, endorphins, etc. So make it public and make everyone have access to it as well, would be my suggestion.
Alyssa, anything to add on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a tool here at Achievers that we actually use as a company, and we call it Coffee Chats. So basically what this is every quarter there's an incentive for you to speak to someone outside of your organization. And we can automatically assign those individuals because we have all the HRS data file, but that's different. Where it goes, the algorithm actually goes out of its way to align you with someone outside of your company. So being remote, it's absolutely amazing to be able to talk to someone. Actually, I spoke to someone in Melbourne last week, which was awesome. And he's on a completely different team. So that's really great, but you don't need a solution to be able to do that. We have one for just our EMEA team where you basically line out an Excel spreadsheet and you put everyone's names and a week, and then you allow them to be incentivized to go and create those partnerships and set up those meetings themselves. So that's just something outside of recognition completely, but has been really valuable to me as I'm not a traditional remote worker. In the last 8 months, I'm very social. So the last 8 months have been a bit hard for me, and it's not organic maybe to reach out to somebody you never met on Teams and been like, hey, do you want to chat? But it's a bit easier when it's kind of been set up for you, and there maybe might be some type of incentive as well. So that works really well.
Cool. Sorry, Dan, do you want to add?
Oh, no, I was just saying one other thing that I think has really helped is just having your organisation structure as well, and everyone knowing the organisation structure as well, and who reports into who does what, etc. Yeah. Just that visualization of the organization, when you're joining a business, it really, really helps. And then just seeing, again, who is aligned to who, again, across departments. Again, that just really helps companies see the whole structure, see that, the whole business in one go is very helpful.
Great, thank you very much. And Frankie's asked, how do employers balance the importance of connection via regular Zoom check-ins with the risk of Zoom fatigue, and how do you strike the right balance? And I might have a crack at this one, just so we're all taking it in turns to answer as we go. And I think there's a particular reason why I'm answering it, because it's a question that we encounter with our clients who are doing a lot of Zoom interviews, which is sort of the same. So back-to-back Zoom interviews across a hiring campaign can get absolutely exhausting. And there was a study done right at the beginning of lockdown by INSEAD, who they sort of spoke about something called that you get cognitive dissonance from Zoom. There's the delay between someone speaking and you seeing them moving on the screen and actually hearing their voice. You don't see it consciously, but subconsciously it's quite taxing on an individual. So what I'd say on this one is be aware of how much Zooming or Blue Jeansing or Google Teamsing your team have been doing, and try and schedule your company-wide Zooms and your company-wide meetings in when they're not going to be Zoom fatigued. So if you're putting it as a high priority, use those times of the day which are the highest value, in the morning or just before lunch or over lunch, when people aren't exhausted from it, early in the week. That last thing on the Friday, it's really tough to be really bought in. And if you're putting these employee engagement questions right at the top of your priority list, you'll also give them the golden hours of people's attention. And I think that's really good. And then also you should be working with your employees to make sure that they're not over video conferencing, and encouraging them to turn a Zoom call into a telephone call. And getting away from the screen a bit. And I know for sure, when I've suggested that to people that I'm speaking to, you get a lot of buy-in from them. They say, yeah, you know what, if I could cut one Zoom from my day, I'd be really happy. So a lot of people are feeling the same things. Anything to add there, Alyssa?
I think that sounds great. But yeah, the number one thing that we discuss when you're trying to figure out if you need a Zoom call is, can this get done over an email? Can we figure this out over an email? So that's what we try to focus on here. But I mean, we're just weird at Achievers and extremely social. I mean, we're a Canadian company, so everyone's super nice, like almost creepy nice, but in the best way possible. So I think we just might be outliers. But completely agree, mornings are the best. I don't think we ever have meetings past 3:30. Just trying to make sure that people are, you're right, engaged. And always use recognition to say thank you.
Always use recognition. Darren?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Felix. But I think it's about structure as well. We basically said we don't like anyone to do back-to-back meetings, whether it's Zoom, whether it's anything else as well. You need those breaks. You need to digest what's just happened on that previous call, put it into Salesforce, whatever system you're using. You need to enter that system. So you need your downtime, and you need to have breaks as well. I think remote working as well, people are more productive at the moment. So there are, as I said, we have massive opportunities. I think it's Deloitte said over 47 minutes, people are more working harder. They are being more productive when things are right. But I know a lot of people that get up, get on a phone calls, and suddenly realize they haven't had a shower, they haven't had a break. They haven't been to the gym. If they can go to the gym, they haven't gone for a walk. So it's just creating structure, and I think that's where HR can help, or best practices, by saying, listen, don't do back-to-back meetings, have a break. Put in your diary, that you're going to go and have a coffee, or you're going to go take the dog for a walk. Everyone's got dogs nowadays. Do that, have that structure. You've got to look after yourself first, and you've got to have that structure. So I'd say, yeah, definitely have that structure. Best practice in your diary. Regular breaks are key.
Also, a feature from Microsoft, I think you can put in blocks of focus time, and that's a nice way to just block off your calendar and say, nope, this is my focus time. Like you said, Darren, create that structure, make it important. And then I think it'll start to feel a bit more consistent over time.
Fantastic. Well, with the aim of making sure that we've all got 5 minutes between this webinar and our next meetings, first of all, thank you so much, Darren and Alyssa for what I thought were really, really interesting contributions. Really found it very interesting indeed, and I certainly learned a lot. So thanks for joining. Thanks all of you for joining as well. Just want to plug a future webinar that we've got coming up on the 10th of December at 4 p.m. It's all around how companies can hire for potential instead of necessarily on experience and what people have on their CVs. Really interesting topic. We've got some again some two expert speakers from two different consultancies on the matter. So please do join us for that. We've got bags of resources on our website, which is just about to get a relaunch. So 2-3 weeks, have a log on to that, please. And of course, specifically within that is our diversity hub, which people have been finding really helpful for driving diversity within their organizations. Everything's free, everything's on there. So we're going to be sending an email around with the resources that Alyssa brought up from Achievers, and then also the results of the Employment Hero survey as well. And I'll make sure that it's easy to get in touch with either Alyssa or Darren to find out a little bit more about their businesses. And of course, we'll send the recording of this webinar and the sign up for any future ones. So thanks a lot, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Felix.